Everybody, I'm Jose. I'm here with Justin. How you doing, Justin?
I'm good. I'm
I'm,
Justin.
I'm here with Kate. Kate, where you at?
Hi.
And two amazing, wonderful, wonderful guests, Judge Genesis Draper.
Hi.
How are you? County Court of Law number 12. How are you, Judge?
Good. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. And the one and only, the MAC director, Kenneth Harden. How are you, Kenneth?
Doing great. I'm happy to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you all here. The week after Halloween, the Thursday after the election, a lot of stuff going down. So let's, how's everybody doing? Hey, what's up? And Houston Media Source, Mark in the booth. How you doing?
Super. Thank you.
That's good. Yes, it's good. It's like
Mark's great. As always.
You know, I love the meme. The meme where it's like the Zoom is like a seance. It's like, can you hear me? If you can hear it, give us a sign. It's awesome. Speaking of signs, I saw a lot of signs of Judge Draper.
If you see them now, pull them down and say
no. So now's the time where we take them all up and remember the time. So tell us, you came in and you did a 2-year, and then you had to run on this time around. And I think there's only 2 courts that are running this time, Court 16 and Court 12. Was that right?
Yeah, on the misdemeanor level, just Court 16. This is Court 16's regular cycle.
Right.
Court 12, of course, was just off because I was feeling the unexpired term.
And so will you have to run again in 2 years?
I'll be back in 22, signs and all.
Oh, hey, Genesis always brings it back to the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah?
You are hired, JB.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing.
On the promo
Judge. Yeah. So, Judge, how's it feel? You're back in the saddle. How is this the first? Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time you had to do like the whole push from beginning to because primary. I don't know if you didn't have an opponent, if I'm mistaken, right?
No.
And then you ran against former Judge Linda Garcia. Is that right?
Right.
Wow. So I practiced in front of her too. I think she ran. She lost against Judge Andrews, I believe, at one point, and then ran against you. And
I think it was Court 16 before Judge.
Right,
she was appointed to 16 when 16 was created as a brand new court. She was appointed to that court.
Did you practice? You practice in front of her, Kate?
Yes. So, this was a tough one. I mean, we had 2 really good candidates running. I am very pleased Judge Draper is on the bench, but I enjoyed practicing in front of Judge Garcia. She's very smart. She listened. She knew the law. So
I don't know. Did you see that one ad she ran against Judge Draper?
I missed it.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
But Justin was like, "What?"
I've seen any criminal county criminal court judges at all.
No.
So, Judge,
money.
you had been practicing for about a decade before you became a judge?
About 13 years.
Wow. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you had both the federal and state experience. Is that right?
Yep. I was with the feds for about 6 years and got exhausted with that and decided to come back stateside.
What was the most challenging thing that you found on the Fed side? Because I don't practice. I mean, I have a handful of federal cases, but if I believe you're with the Federal Public Defender's Office, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I mean, every case I've had on the federal side's heavy. That's not to say that some cases aren't that there's not light cases on the federal side, and by light I mean, not your normal 2-3 year long federal investigation style. I mean, every now and then you'll have a DWI on some base or something. But which is still bad, whatever. But what would you say you got exhausted? Tell us about it. What do you mean by that?
It's just a heavy place to practice, right? Like you said, by the time a case gets to you, it's not like they pulled it fresh off the street.
No,
So you kind of fish through, boxes and boxes of evidence, or, hours, weeks, months of wiretap. So that stuff is kind of depressing. But then the sentences, it's not quite as flexible as it can be on the state side, where there's a 5 to 99. It's like the suggested guideline range that ranges a few months. And of course, judges can go above or below, but the frequency of that is not as much as you would expect. And so people get some really serious time for drugs and
so when was the first time that someone said you're going to be a judge? Like, for real? Because it's when you became a judge, it's like, yeah, she's going to be a judge, or yeah, she's a judge. Like, that's right.
Yeah, so it happened so quick, right? Like, I got a call unexpectedly on a Saturday morning, and then by Tuesday, I was like voted on. And so it was really quick, and it was so quick that I really didn't even believe it, right? Because they said, "Oh, come on down to Commissioner's Court. We're going to take the vote today." And so I'm showing up like they're going to take the vote. They might say no. I mean, wow.
Well,
no. And then it was like totally happened. And they took the vote, and I turned around to leave to walk back to the public defender's office, and people were stopping me, and they were like, "Hey, Judge." I'm like, "Me?
What?
You talking to me?"
Wait, what?
So, I just felt like, okay, let me get back to the public defender's office because I'm in the twilight zone. And then it just, started to settle in. And it's been a really good fit. I mean, between my prior experience, and I just really like litigation and stuff like that. So it's been a really nice fit.
Do you, yeah.
Sorry. So many other judges have come from the district attorney's office to the bench. And I don't know if you have any prosecutorial experience, but what do you think? So none. Okay. So what do you think that your experience as a defense attorney, public or otherwise, what do you think how that informed you and your approach as a member of the bench or the judiciary? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, well, so my 13 years was exclusively representing impacted people, right? And so just kind of knowing the deficiencies from that end informs a lot of the way I am on the bench. And, I think sometimes people are scared and they're like, oh, they're going to like not care about victims and stuff. People's natural inclination is to care about victims. We don't struggle with that. Most of us are born with that. But to care about the rights of a person accused, and to really, like, everybody can get behind following a penal code, but people get real wishy-washy when it's time to like follow a code of criminal procedures or those laws. And so, that's kind of my experience as being a defender. You just get frustrated with that. And so I'm hypersensitive about making sure that I honor all of those laws, the same.
That's awesome. And have you always been in Houston? I don't think you've always been here in Harris County, right? Yeah.
No,
I'm
not from Houston, from East Texas. And then I practiced in Nashville, Tennessee before I came here. I came here for love.
Oh, yeah?
My husband is an attorney here, and he's from here. So I moved here and we got married.
That is awesome. What is the biggest, what's the biggest challenge facing Harris County criminal courts at law right now?
Courts at law. Okay.
Is it the backup? Is it COVID? Is it trials? What is it? Like,
is it the DA's office intake division?
Yes, and yes. It's just a lot going on right now, right? We were just trying to get our bearings with bail reform. While that's an amazing reform, there's still a lot of like kinks to work out. And so then to like slam COVID on top of that and suddenly be kind of thrust into that, that's a real challenge. And obviously we don't have as many people in custody anymore. So we're way, way low on the priority of people to like have a trial for. Since we have people on bond charged with misdemeanors, we're kind of low on the totem pole. So it's just a lot of challenges in that way.
Well, okay, I have a question about that. Because we had Judge Wright on a couple weeks ago, and he's had, I don't know how many trials, and come to find out they're all bonded misdemeanor charges. Why? I understand. I'm not seeing that. I'm not advocating for trials, but it sounds to me like misdemeanor judges, when someone's on bond, are getting trials and are taking, I don't want to say taking away from, but some people might say taking away from the larger panel or pool that shows up with limited capacity.
Yeah, so I don't think that they're necessarily taking up the space from anybody else. I don't know that there's anybody else running over there to have them. I think Judge Wright has gone over there because he wants to get some things moving, and I don't blame him. And he had parties that were agreeable to that, I guess. But in the grand scheme of things, like for example, in the coming months, I think January, there's a really small number of trials that they can even have due to like other, I guess, scheduling conflicts and stuff over there. And so you have to like put in your request in advance. It has to be approved. So there's like a whole thing and a whole process to doing that. It can be done, but we are not exactly the priority.
Is it true that in February the NRG arena is going to go back to being for the rodeo and juries are not going to be assembling there?
So I'm not on the NRG jury committee, but I do think there are some scheduling conflicts that may or may not be the rodeo. I have no idea. But there are other uses at NRG that are making those months limited.
What will happen if he is no longer available? What's the next plan? Is there one?
I'm not on that committee. So
Okay.
that trickles down to me. And then I say, I don't like that. Or, yes, I do.
I mean,
what'd you say?
I said, we don't even know who our next president is. Like, we can't determine
That's fair. Sorry.
We're living one day at a time, Justin. We can't even look at
you having all the answers, Judge.
Situation will be in. Yeah.
It's just the beginning.
Because you've been really involved in a lot of things since you took over this for the late judge who was on before. She passed away while she was in office. And one thing that you took the reins of is kind of reforming the court-appointed system and the development of the managed assigned counsel program that's going to be starting in the county courts.
Yep.
See my segue there, JB?
Yeah, that was great. No, yes.
Clever. Very clever.
Thank you. So tell us and the viewers a little bit about how you came to be involved in that and what you did and who else was involved, and then we can segue into what y'all decided.
Yeah, sure. So from the very beginning of me being appointed, that was one of the things that was already floating around was to develop the managed assigned counsel office so that appointment system got removed from the judges. And I already had, a decent amount of working knowledge of like other systems that were operational. And so I just took that on. And I wanted to see that happen. So it was kind of a good place for me to get involved. And so it was kind of a long time in the making, right? You had to apply for a grant with TIDC, the Texas Indigent Defense Commission, and get funding and get commissioners court buy-in. And so there's like a whole process to doing that. And we did that.
Did you have any resistance? Did you have any resistance to the MAC?
From
any champions? I don't know, just so many groups, so there's this whole idea that the entire private defense bar is against the MAC. I'm one of the ones that shows that no, I'm not. I'm a private defense bar, and I'm not against the MAC. I do see that a lot of people are, but I was kind of groups. Were they vocal enough or at the table, and who are the supporters of it too?
Yeah, so I think that there are certainly some people who are anxious about it, who are against it. Most of them are pretty quiet, right? Like I always have to hear through the grapevine that somebody's upset about it. So like you can always come to me. But so there were some groups, and I think a lot of it is, in part based on misinformation and in part based on the unknown.
Sure.
And so there were some people that were against it. There are people that are for it. I don't think that the whole defense bar is against it because I know people in the defense bar that are not against it. Judges, at least our group, was certainly for it. Commissioners Court, kind of once the issue was explained to them, they're for it too. And community members, right? People represented by appointed counsel, they're for it. And so it was something that we really, kind of wanted to push forward. And, also just kind of want to make sure that people get a better working knowledge of what it is.
Can you explain, because we're kind of beating around it, what's the issue that the MAC is supposed to fix? What's the current system and what's it supposed to do?
Yeah. So the way we do court appointments now is we make the appointments. So if somebody can't afford an attorney, then they request court appointed counsel. We have them fill out the financial affidavit, give us some information about their finances. Once we determine that they qualify, then we appoint an attorney. And that is done in a lot of different ways depending on the court. It's allegedly by a will. I think some courts use the will, some don't. It could be the judge, it could be the coordinator. It's a whole host of things. And I think over the years, it's evolved, right? There was certainly a time where campaign donations fueled, your ability to be able to get long-term appointment or term appointments. Kolaches, something as simple as that, even if it's not true, even if it's not true, it certainly looks like that. And we have people who kind of go on that rant where it's like, I'm not getting appointments, I must not have brought enough kolaches. So, there's kind of just a wide range of ways in which people get appointed. And so what we were dealing with was the appearance of impropriety, sometimes small, sometimes totally ridiculous. Not a ton of quality control. People could kind of do whatever. So you had some that were like really awesome, some in between, and some that's like you need to look at a different profession. And then there was also just under resource, right? Like not having support. So, no way to kind of communicate that the pay structure wasn't working, or no way to really communicate the value of mitigation specialists or, immigration specialists. And so it was just a mess. And so to try and make it more unified, we started studying other programs, looking into bringing it to Harris County. We developed kind of a baseline plan to request from the Texas Indigent Defense Commission that we get funds to create a department here, and we did. And then we launched like a huge search to find the right director, and enter stage left was Kenneth Harden. And so he's going to be the new director, the executive director of the Managed Assigned Counsel Office. And I'm really proud, that we were able to get him, and even the whole process that we went through to get him. I'm really proud of the way all of that went down.
Well, let's introduce the MAC director, Kenneth Harden. Kenneth, how are you?
Doing fine. I'm doing fine. Thank y'all for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You are the first MAC director in one of the top 4 largest counties in the country. You're a young guy. Okay, that was one of the when word came that you were going to be the MAC director. One of the things was, is he old enough? And the reality is that anybody who raised that got shut down in half a second because seriously, because your credentials are spectacular. Your reputation is equal to match. We know that it's going to be a huge climb, and everybody's wanting to get to know you. I know you've already been around and you've established, you speak at CLEs. I've seen you at CLEs. You already have a good reputation here in Harris County, because I think you were here and you left and then you came back. Or
yes,
yeah. Okay.
I went to law school here, and I'm a Louisiana native, but I went to law school here, and then I went back to Louisiana, New Orleans, and I was there for 9.5 years, and I came back to Harris County, to the Public Defender's Office, and I've been here 1.5 years.
Out in Louisiana, you had leadership roles in was it the Public Defender's Office out there?
The Orleans Public Defender's Office in New Orleans. Yes, I did.
Wow, that's wild. That's some, Houston's pretty hard too, but New Orleans,
New Orleans is
New Orleans is pretty hard, man.
I still have PTSD in some instances.
Well, let me ask you. There's been articles regarding Louisiana's reluctance to fund a public defender's office with the resources it needs to be successful. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. You see, unlike Harris County, New Orleans Public Defender's Office is on a user pay system. They are funded by the Louisiana State Public Defender Board, which is a congruent of TIDC, the Texas Indigent Defense Commission. and city council, which has a little bit more congruency to the Harris County Commissioners Court as opposed to the city council here. So that being said, the Louisiana Public Defender Board has to shelve money out of 18 different offices in Louisiana. So there's a small portion that's given there. And then city council is responsible for funding the other portion. And what they have elected to fund the portions of the public defender's office is through traffic cameras and traffic tickets. So
Right.
you can imagine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can imagine first is a conflict, right? Just the nature of it is a conflict, and then there's always an issue of funding. Every year we were under resourced every year, so we really had to do a lot with little. And but we did it, and it was tough. It's challenging, but in many ways it prepares you. It builds a resilience, and it prepares you for endeavors such as this.
And you came back to Houston, and you came back. Was it with the public defender's office here?
I did. I came back with the public defender's office here.
And were you handling felonies, misdemeanors, mental health? Were you or a leadership role, or what was it?
I actually gave up a leadership role. I actually was looking forward to learning as being a staff attorney again. I think sometimes you have to step away from leadership in order to grow to be a better leader. And it was one of those things where I had to go to grow. But to answer your question more on point was I was in the felony trial division. So I handle felonies, anything from misdemeanors to murders.
God, that's awesome. We got one of the best public defender's offices in the country, at least as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anybody.
We really do.
I agree. I don't think anybody can disagree when we start talking about the people who've been there and the people who've helped it grow and the culture and game and I was gonna say group that you guys have that the public defender's office has started is actually amazing. It's a good group of individuals.
It really is.
So at some point they're looking for a MAC director, and obviously somebody says, hey, Kenneth Harden is, he might be good, and so. How did that come about? Or can you talk about it?
When the office came about, when I was hearing about this opportunity, I did get referenced by some colleagues of mine about this particular opportunity. And I'm not one, coming from leadership positions, I'm not one to run towards leadership positions without doing my homework. Because I'm aware of the calling that it takes and the demands and the stressors. So if you want to run for leadership, whether it's in politics or whether it's more in directing an office, regardless, you need to do your homework. And so I did. First of all, I'm encouraged by the progressiveness of Harris County. I was encouraged by that, and that initially, that kind of motivated me to do this further research. And so I did. And I found out about it and the MAC program and seeing what it's about and what the opportunity to do. As you said before, Harris County more specifically is not just one of the 4 largest counties, it's the 3rd largest county in the nation. And then when you're talking about the court-appointed attorneys and the chance to support them, to support the clients that we represent, then what better opportunity is that? What better opportunity is that? And then when I look back over my career, I believe that such a time is now to step up into to this endeavor.
When does the MAC start? When does it start, man? Is it December 1st and then it's MAC time?
Well, when and how? Because there's attorneys right now who are doing what they call terms in all 16 different courts. Some terms are 6 months, some terms are 1 week, some are 3 months, some are a year. So how does that work? How does it start and when? Great question.
Yeah, I'll answer both questions. As far as when the MAC, first of all, I like that it's MAC time. I may have to copyright that.
Hey, where's the flag? We got to get the gear. It's MAC time.
I really like that. But at this point, there is no definite start date for the MAC program. Obviously, there is going to be a full evaluation process that kind of handles into Justin's question. I'm aware of the drawbacks of the terms. I'm aware of the inconsistency amongst the appointments, and that is something that's going to have to be fully evaluated in order to give the attorneys the fairness and the support that they deserve. So that being said, we need to finalize a few things before we actually have an exact start date to start receiving court-appointed cases through the MAC. Some of those things include finalizing the positions that we're going to be making. For example, this program exists as more of a covenant, a grant between TIDC and Harris County Commissioners Court. So there has to be on the same page, both. We have to be on the same page with both parties within this grant to make sure that there's alignment with positions, there's an alignment with structure, budgetary concerns, office space, those kinds of things. And once we can secure that, which I'm already trying to get a beat on, I haven't even assumed my duties yet. And once we get a beat on that, then we'll have a more definite timeline as to when the MAC starts.
Is the MAC so I'm curious to know if the judges rule, have the judges said, hey, this is what we want a MAC to look like, and have put their input, and you have been hired to fulfill the vision of the judges, or is it commissioner's court, or is it a blend of yours and their vision too? I'm wondering who's the oversight, and if there are guideposts that you have to work under or design through.
That's a fair question.
Right. So it started with that, and that will kind of be the guidepost. And that grant was, kind of just structured by the judges, of course, with consultation from people who are more familiar with MAC programs and getting input like that. But so that's kind of the guidepost. But I think part of us wanting to create some independence is not to be breathing down his neck and okay, I want it to look like this. I want it to look like this. And by the way, I'm going to be your oversight board, and I'll let you know how it's supposed to go. So that's basically the same thing that we already have. Mm-hmm. And so, there is an oversight board that will be made up of different members, very similar to the way that it's set up with the Public Defender's Office, right? There are different, players and the word I'm looking for is escaping me.
Stakeholders.
Yeah, stakeholders. That's the exact word I'm looking for, that are on that oversight board. And so it will look similar to that. And so that's kind of there's a lot to be done before this happens. So I would not expect in the spring for this to be fully operational, right? Because there's just so much to build out. And so I think we're probably looking at, and Kenneth knows more because he's kind of crunching the numbers and the space and stuff now, but probably not before the summer, before this is even operating.
If I had to give a guess, yeah.
Are there enough lawyers? Go for it.
Sorry?
Yeah, go for it. Are there enough? How are you going to quality control lawyers? And so right now you have to take the test, and you got a point system, and you have to meet certain parameters to be qualified to accept appointments at the county criminal court level. Will there be standards? And I'd imagine there's going to be some sort of standards. Are you going to keep the same, or here's my question. You got 4 million people, Houston County or Harris County proper. Are there enough lawyers, qualified lawyers that are on the list to handle that caseload, so long as these cases keep flooding in? And
let me pipe in real quick. Somebody's texting me saying that they can't hear. So
I know, Mark. We have some. Okay.
Are they watching it on TV or on Facebook or?
I think it's Facebook. People.
Okay.
Okay. Try the. No. Thank you, because I'm seeing it too, and I was wondering how I was gonna let Mark know.
Along JV's question on oversight, I'm getting a lot of questions from other people too about the oversight board. What are they overseeing, and how will that work? So quality control that you mentioned, Judge Draper, and that JV's asking about, and then this oversight board. What are they actually overseeing?
The oversight board is oversight of Kenneth and his department. That's not over the lawyers.
Yes.
So that's almost like a board of directors or something akin to that.
Right.
So Kenneth, let me ask, I'm sure y'all haven't gotten to the real nuts and bolts of how this is going to work. Whether attorneys are going to be appointed for the day, for the week. I'm sure that's something you guys are deciding. And I know there's a lot of defense attorneys who are, kind of, I can't be assigned to 5 different courts. I can't take a case here one day, a case here the next day. Are you going to look for any type of input or survey from the defense bar in how to implement this? Kind of maybe reach out and see maybe some of the ideas that we have?
Okay, I believe myself to be a human resource type of personality. So absolutely. I think that we exist. This program at least my vision for this program is existing to support our attorneys. I can't support them without knowing some of the things that they need. So that being said, I fully intend on inviting some of those opinions and feedback, and I encourage it. So it's funny, any questions, whether they're hostile or whether they're nice, I encourage it because then that shows interest. And once we show interest, that leads to engagement. So to your point, one of the things that I've been discussing with a few folks that are close to me is the idea of bringing in outsourcing folks that are helping us make these decisions and reaching out to attorneys. More like in marketing, right? Trying to figure out good ways to partner with HCCLA and getting people and figuring out the attorneys that we need to speak to get their ideas, to see exactly what some of the concerns are. Yes, I have done my homework, but I don't know everyone, right? And I'm certainly not as connected to Houston as far as longevity as many of you are. So that being said, yeah, I certainly look forward to that.
Are you looking?
I'm getting some questions.
Are some of the models limiting to like a case or two a day, or have you thought about term limits, or is it attorney of the days, or kind of a combo of all three? And have you looked to, and what are some of the other models like? Right.
I haven't excluded any of the models, but some of the models that we've looked at that's just within our grasp are, you have Lubbock, right? We would be the fourth MAC office in the state of Texas. There's 254 counties in Texas, as you already know. There's Collin County, there's Travis County, and there's Lubbock County, which was actually the first MAC program. But just to kind of be clear as a side note, this isn't the first time a program like this has existed. The state of Massachusetts has a statewide MAC program. California, there are a few counties in there that's been doing it for several years. But it's relatively new in Texas, but not brand new. So that being said, the closest models I was looking at was Lubbock and Travis and Collin. Now, Collin only really evolves around mental health cases as far as within their MAC program. So they are really, really good at guidance towards those types of cases. Travis County is a little bit more similar in structure because it's a county program. It's a county program like this program will be. Lubbock is a little bit different because it's established more so as a nonprofit. And they also handle felonies and misdemeanors rather than just limited to misdemeanors, as well as Travis County. So we are the only ones that will be handling strictly misdemeanors, at least from its infancy. So those are some of the ways that are different. So when we talk about structure, their structures are have a little bit more wheels to it to accommodate the various level of cases that they have. Whereas here, we're looking at different structures within the category of misdemeanors.
Well,
what are you looking at there?
Because you got to have a lot of cases. You're going to need a lot of lawyers. Now, granted, I know some of the lawyers are carrying a big chunk of the cases. I'm one of them. I carry a lot of misdemeanor cases.
I never see you, JV. You never come.
Well, hey, Judge, maybe I need to bring some kolaches. You know what I'm saying?
That's fine.
I'm kidding.
That's fine.
No, but for real, and so for me, one of my things I'm thinking of is Spanish speakers. There's just not a lot of us, and I'm wondering, I think, I'm in the trenches. I've been there for 10 years. I think you're going to need more lawyers. I just think you're going to need more lawyers, and I'm worried.
We need help.
Yeah, you're gonna need more lawyers because now,
the number of. Well, here's an example, JB. The number of courts has increased over the years, but through the legislature. The number of cases in the courts have increased over the years. But as far as I can tell, since the court-appointed system has started, it's been limited to 5 attorneys per court, dividing up those cases. And even during Hurricane Harvey, they increased the number of cases that we could take per day from 5 to 7 without increasing pay. And I don't know that rule has come back off the books. So we need help. And JV and I have kind of riffed back and forth. I think JV, credit goes to you for this. What if we just had one more attorney in the court, every day taking cases that could, we could have, I don't want to say I'm spread too thin. I'm not. We're handling it. We're staying on top of things. But I know other attorneys who are. So what are some you're specifically looking at in the other jurisdictions?
Yeah, do you have, I don't know, and this is just me. I don't know if I'm sure you have, but there's a lot of cases coming in, and maybe there's just that many other lawyers that aren't being called for appointments that are on the list.
There are a lot of attorneys who don't get called don't get brought in.
Yeah.
Tons of
There's
attorneys.
a lot that
Yep.
are not being utilized. I have a question about Lubbock. And excuse me for not knowing much about Lubbock. Does Lubbock have a public defender's office? And is there going to be any impact between having the MAC and a public defender's office in this county?
I'm not aware of the exact correlation between the public defender's office and the Lubbock office, but to answer your question, this office will more or less exist as a complement to the public defender's office. This will not be a public defender's office, but it will be a complement to the public defender's office in the sense that our goals are going to be that we're going to be handling court-appointed cases, and that we're going to strive to give client-centered representation and through holistic representation, right? Actually, so when we talk about, and I kind of want to segue off of your question to something that Justin mentioned as well, in needing support and needing help. One of the things that I think that we're going to be able to, one of the ways I think we're going to be able to do that during our evaluation is we're going to be speaking not just with attorneys, but I want to speak with looking at the process of the courts, right? Seeing exactly, getting some type of correlation between the courts and their systems of communication, right? Because a lot of this is communication and making sure that we have an understanding, because we want to try to eliminate the perception of favoritism, but also we have to understand from all sides how cases are being appointed and when they're being assigned. Because what we want to do is we want to try to build a structure from within the office that eliminates that has a little bit more of a fair case distribution. So for that reason, case limits will be something we're going to be looking at trying to get a handle on. We definitely want to try to get a handle on case limits, not necessarily because we're trying to take away from someone or trying to add on to someone, but because our state standards say that we have to, right? TIDC, if you're looking at caseload limits, for example, we have anywhere between 180 to 200 court-appointed attorneys taking misdemeanor cases. And when you start looking at caseload limits, which are based annually according to TIDC, Class A, this case limit is 236. That's closed cases. And then 216 for Class B. So that's an ideal figure, but that's something that we want to try our best to start doing, right? Because we don't want people overworked, because when people overwork, attorneys suffer, but more importantly, their clients do. Right. So we want to try to take all those statistics and metrics into place.
So, one of my mentors has a slideshow he puts on where he says that all attorneys, one of the slides is all attorneys should strive to have half as many clients who pay twice as much. And that way the clients get more focus of the attorney's time and they're not spread more thin and things like that. Now, what kind of things is the MAC going to be looking at as far as compensation for attorneys go? Because along that line, I do want to point out, and I'm getting messages from people, and some of this is mine, some of this I'm learning from the great Todd DuPont, that it's a good way to preface a question like this with, some people say, you both come from a background of the public defender's offices from various places. So I'm making an assumption here. I may be wrong, correct me if I am, but I don't believe that you've either had to pay for your own private insurance. You've never had to pay office rent. You've never had to pay for your own support staff. You've always had those things provided to you. You've gotten a paycheck. You haven't had to worry about that phone better ring or those vouchers better get approved by the commissioners about the next meeting so I can have money to pay rent. What can you, and we're dealing with everyone that you're going to be overseeing and everyone that you oversee in your court other than the public defender who's assigned to your court, Judge Draper. They're all private attorneys. We have to pay for our own insurance. We have to pay, if we have an office, if we're fortunate enough to, we have to pay rent there. We have to pay for our internet. We have to pay for our copy machine and our paper and our toner. I got to get a new belt unit, whatever that is for my copier. What are some things that you can tell us? Because I understand, Judge Draper, you on some vouchers I've submitted, you've checked that the pay rate is insufficient and been able to give me more than the minimum. But on paper, the Harris County rules are, we get paid $25 to $50 an hour, which sounds like a lot of money, but I have support staff that I pay. I pay office rent, and there are some times when I pay my office staff more than I make, and I cannot bill for their time either. Setting up a file, issuing subpoenas, issuing motions and pleadings, I pay that out of my own pocket. And I don't pad my vouchers because I'm swearing to at the end of everything that the hours I'm submitting are hours I actually worked, not hours that my staff worked. So that's kind of a big, broad question. But these are things that a lot of people in the private defense bar who do court appointments, who are good attorneys, who care about their clients and care about their clients' outcomes, Those are some of the concerns that they've voiced to me before the show, for the month's meeting. And
I think that's the
what's that?
The core of that is you want a pay raise on the amounts. That's what.
Well, I
So
want to know the consideration for that. You know, I have to pay $500 a month for health insurance.
So let me say this. To kind of
JB got 4 kids. He had COVID.
Hey, don't bring me into this, okay? Don't bring me into this. I got
at the beginning of your question. So there is a lot of concern about like, well, am I going to be? Some are like, can I pay my bills, right? And some are like, can I like ball out like I've been doing, you know? Because there are some people that have been making a lot of money. I'm not talking about you, Justin, but there are people who've been making a lot for a little. And so there's a lot of concern, and people have different motivations, right? I think questioning whether or not we're like trying to like undercut people's ability to live is inconsistent with what we've done. Yes, you were like 25 to 50 or whatever the rate was. And then the county court judges voted to raise it to 50 to 100, right? And so and pretty much all of us give the top. And so we're like recognizing that people need to be paid a fair value. Luckily, that will be off our plate, and Mr. Harden will have the opportunity to, in consultation with private attorneys, programs that are already doing it, other different systems, to see whether or not a daily rate is better, whether or not an hourly rate is better. Because one, you want people to be paid fairly, but you also want to incentivize good work.
Absolutely.
And so we are trying to figure out the best way to do that. There is not a definitive answer on that, right? Because we haven't even talked to you guys about what you do like or what you don't like about it, to see what is ultimately going to be the outcome. I know that from you, Justin, you know, just from us talking, I know about that issue with you and not being able to kind of pay for the work that's being put in by some of your staff. And I've had you in my court and know that that person is putting in work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, what may happen is people decide, okay, appointments aren't for me anymore. Like I have to like go eat what I kill. And that might be the option. We don't want to lose good people. So we want to, again, incentivize the work. But as far as not having had to do it, first of all, I'm not like, my husband is in private practice, and that is how we really live, right? Like I'm happy with my little salary, I am, but that is how we really live. And so, you know, I understand that hustle, but from a distance. But there are tons of people, other county court judges who were in private practice, who did do misdemeanor appointments, who have been very vocal about what they don't want to see happen by way of the pay structure. But even that has to be balanced with what the defense bar is saying, what best practices are, and what we think will best incentivize good work. Because it's not, I mean, I think this county has shown itself willing to invest in good defense work, whether or not that's funding the public defender's office, MAC, giving you all raises. If we articulate the need for it, then the county has shown themselves to come up with the money, but we need to be able to articulate exactly what that is. You know, I've had all kinds of things like, well, you know, what about, you know, am I going to have to, all these questions that people are worried about. Am I going to have to lose my investigator? What investigator? Ain't nobody sending me investigator bills. And so it's like talking about all these hypothetical fears. And the appropriate thing to do is to do like you do, Justin, to take actual examples of things that are actually happening and put that into like the surveys or however the implementation program and strategic planning rolls out in collaboration with defense attorneys.
Does the MAC get
Well,
more?
Call me. I've got ideas. I've been making notes.
I have kolaches. Hey,
I'll bring breakfast.
You're gonna have to have more money. If you're gonna have more lawyers, you're gonna have more money, right?
Yeah,
I mean, where are you gonna get it?
Qualified lawyers. And I'm not trying to live rich, you know, and I'm not trying to not have a robust private practice that's retained. But I started doing court appointments because I got into Gideon's Promise through something called FACT. FACT stands for Future Appointed Counsel Training Program. And many people at the Public Defender's Office keep asking me to come work for the PD's office. And I've said I made a commitment to be an appointed attorney in the private bar because the people who started that program wanted to raise the bar for private defense. And I got tired, frankly, also of hearing, I can't say the S word on here, but crappy or poopy attorneys in the hallway just telling their court-appointed client to just plead guilty because they knew they weren't going to make any more money on that case, and they didn't care. I worked for attorneys who didn't even make a file folder for their client if they were appointed. They just stapled reset after reset after reset on top of each other. And they didn't want to waste the resources of a manila file folder on a court-appointed client. And I dislike that. In my office, our clients are all treated the same, and they get the utmost attention that we can give anybody. And I think that JV's right, and a lot of other people are right, that the way you raise the bar for representation is you pay a lawyer, not a living wage, but a reasonable fee that a lawyer deserves. And $50 to $100 to people who are watching TV sounds like a lot, and that is a lot of money. But $50 to $100 when you can't bill for every single thing you do, and you have.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I need to stop.
It's okay. Well, I think one of the great things about a MAC is it's about the client. It's turning the client into
Absolutely.
the centerpiece, right? That's kind of the whole idea of it. And an issue that I see, especially with COVID-19 now, and Judge, you may not particularly like this because I know some of the judges don't, but we live in Houston with hurricanes. Not getting my appointed client till the first arraignment on that day is a problem. It really is. If you really look at it, why? And by having this organization that will kind of oversee everything, something I would like to see is when they're released from jail or been, magistrated, why can't I be appointed to that person right then?
They get a prosecutor that day.
Later.
Yeah, they get a prosecutor that day, so why can't they get a defense attorney? That's a great point.
Well, I mean, I understand that the public defender's office is there and they kind of guide them through that process, but when they're released, they should have their court appointed, know their name, given our information, and then when they show up to court, we already have them. We're not 7 days later after their case has been filed and they've been released.
Yeah, so I think that is a more of a possibility under this type of system. I can't do that, right? Because I have an exploding docket. My case manager is trying to answer all these calls, and so we're legit appointing when they show up, And so I think this opens the door to be able to do that if people would prefer to do it that way. To Justin's issue, though, yes, there are those attorneys that if you, I'm oversimplifying what you're saying, but if you pay them a more competitive rate, they would be incentivized to do better work, right?
Well, you might attract ones who are not even in the wheel right now. You might attract ones who are not even taking cases right now because they know what I'm living every day, which is I lose money on my court-appointed cases. Y'all don't cover ALRs for people with DWIs. If I don't cover an ALR for my client who can't afford to hire an attorney, they're going to lose their driver's license. They're going to keep driving. It's the city of Houston with no real public transportation. So I cover the ALR. I pay out of pocket $100 into $200 to subpoena a witness to come down to the ALR. And I win most of those hearings so that my client keeps their driver's license. And I get to use that evidence in the criminal case. But I'm not really allowed to bill for that administrative proceeding because it's not part of that. And I don't know how that can be changed because it may take changes in the commissioner's code and all that. And
funds, because you have to realize everybody has so many ancillary things to their criminal case, right? So we got people that have a family case that's attached to it. We have people that have an immigration case that's attached to it. And so we can't pay for that appointed attorney to represent on all the things you have going on. We wish we could. Well, but it really, there are a lot of things. The eviction cases that are connected to these. So there's a lot.
Yeah, but find me one DWI that doesn't also have an ALR. There isn't one. They all do. There are plenty of.
Why it would be an exorbitant amount of money, right? They all do, and it would be a huge amount of money to also, pay for that. I'm not saying absolutely not. But I'm just pointing out that while we are willing to invest, it's a pot, right? And so you have to figure out where this money is coming from.
Well,
whether or not expense that you can absorb.
Half, and there's some money there. They could cut the intake division in the DA's office in half. And there's some money right there because that money's not doing us any good.
You tried.
Can I bring it back to the Mac? Let me turn it into the Mac. Justin, you're great. I love you. I love
The
you.
county comes up with the money when they want to,
Great. Look,
and they can do it.
look.
Where there's a will, there is a way.
Hey, what do you say about how do you see Mr. Harden, Kenneth Harden? How do you see your office? Where's it going to be located? You have any ideas of where it's going to be located? And like, are you starting off with you thinking like you'll have like a 2 or 3 person team and then build from there?
Mhm.
Or,
Are you applying, JV? Is that your application?
Hey.
Are there corner offices that overlook Minute Maid Park? Right.
What are your?
I wish.
Do you see your how do you see your office growing? What's your structure? Where are you going to be at? You're going to be in the building, or have you thought about it?
Well, within the grant, we definitely want to try. The grant specifies that it wants us to be close to the courthouse. So the goal is to be within walking distance to the courthouse. As y'all probably already aware, there's a shortage of space downtown. But I've already started looking and started meetings with folks, the business, the court and administrating business locators, right, and trying to find out what space is available. So I do have some ideas, and that include but not limited to being in the courthouse within the 1201 Franklin, or trying to find out any available leasing spaces. So we have started that, but the intention is to remain downtown. But in the interim, obviously, we're going to be looking for short-term space. I think those are going to be 2 different projects, short-term and long-term, but both will be focused on downtown. Now, as far as a vision of growth, we, of course, you always want to grow. We're going to try to make it work with what we have right now. The grant covers right about 19 positions, right? They're not all attorneys, but around 19 positions are what the grant specifies. I'm not saying that that's going to be exactly what it is, but we are going to be looking out that. Obviously, as Justin and as Kate has already alluded, that's probably, you need more people, but at least it starts, if we built the structure correctly, which is why this evaluation is going to take so much time, then it's going to be built with a structure where you're not creating new positions, you're only adding to what you already have, and therefore you're set up to grow, right? That's my finance degree that's coming out, really trying to set that part up. So yes, the vision is to grow, the vision is to remain downtown.
Do you have any pillars of like individuals that you want, like positions that you want in the sense of like, okay, you're probably going to have like a budget guy. You're probably going to have or gal, right? Budget person. And you're probably going to have, this kind. Have you thought maybe an executive assistant? I'm not sure. Have you thought about positions of, let's say, the 19 that you're having?
Yes. The grant does specify positions. And remember at the beginning during this conversation, I said we were talking between Harris County Commissioners Court and TIDC to finalize them. But those positions of which I definitely agree between those 2 entities are, yes, someone that handles budgets. Yes, I see someone bringing someone in at an executive level that can help with case management systems and helping design a fair structure as we transition from the judicial branch of authority to a central branch of authority. So something like that. I also endorse the idea of resource attorneys, not someone to supervise or micromanage attorneys, because we're not there to supervise people. As y'all have already indicated, y'all are independent contractors per se, right? Y'all are not employees, and we're not trying to take that and try to teach you how to do law. However, we want to be able to provide the resources in case you do need the assistance. If there are ways that we can support you, if it's providing social workers, which is also going to be something we're considering being on the staff to help with mitigation for clients. That's something that we want to be looking for as well. Someone to help with fee vouchers, right? We're talking about this idea of being below the state average, which I'm aware Harris County is. Someone that can help us assess what fair value is after we start to collect some of the thoughts and your thoughts, right? You have, and to Kate's question that she had earlier, you have people in Lubbock that are going hourly, and then you have Colin that have flat rates, right? What's the best way? Some structure or some combination of both? The only way we're going to know is to hear your voices. So please keep them coming. Keep them coming. I hope I have a bunch of Justins asking me a lot of things that way, because I have more insight on how to do it.
Thankfully, we
only one.
Thank you, guys. I'll take that as a compliment. I'm going to be like, I may be run off the air for a lot of other reasons, but I'm going to definitely run off the air if I don't ask one question that a lot of people are asking me. and that's that there's some I don't know, there's some information out there that makes people believe that there's going to be someone looking over their shoulder or looking in their case file when a case is either going on or when it's over with, and kind of armchair quarterbacking a lawyer. Is that one of the 19 people, like an armchair quarterback lawyer?
You got 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes to answer.
Is there somebody, do you understand what I'm saying? There's somebody who feels like this.
Yeah. So the short answer is no, right? There's just too many cases to be trying to hover over everybody's case. And it's exactly like Kenneth said, a resource attorney. People who are worried about their papers being graded might want to go back and check them papers though. Because what I said from the beginning is if you're doing your job, you're not going to even notice the MAC, right? It's not, your life is not going to be altered if you're already doing the work. It's not. Nobody is trying to like open your files and well, have you, what kind of investigation, where are your investigation? It's just not that. But this not only does serve as a resource, but there is some quality control. But that quality control is very high level, right? To make sure that we're not giving out like, 600 cases to one person, or that we don't have someone who is like habitually not visiting people. And there are all these complaints coming in, but there's really no way to like keep up with it, to try to see if there's something there that even needs to be looked at. So the supervisory role or the managed role is very high level and not nearly as micromanaging as people, I think, are afraid of, because it's not the public defender's office, and not that they micromanage, but they do have a more hands-on approach, and there is a direct supervisor who can have the time to actually keep up with 4 lawyers. This is too massive a group of lawyers to try and check people's paper.
180 to 200 lawyers, there's no way to supervise that amount of attorneys, but we do want to be resourced. Hence, the repetitive resource attorneys. Yes. We want to
or if I
you.
call and say, look, I have an attorney that habitually is showing up asleep at the wheel, I want somebody to be able to maybe like check into it, because otherwise I can just say I'm not going to use the person, and then they can bounce to the next court and nothing really gets done about it.
Don't forget, Justin, you just made a comment about how there are shitty or crappy, poopy appointed attorneys. You literally just talked about that. I don't think that it's wrong to have somebody that maybe can weed some of these guys out, because they.
I agree.
And you can check my paper all day long because my paper is A+. So I don't care if there's a supervisor. Like, check
if my clients sign a waiver, you can look at my file. But I stand by my word.
Kenneth, reassure the defense bar you're not here to take their jobs. You got 10 seconds.
I'm not here to take their jobs. I'm here to empower them to do their jobs even higher than what they're doing now.
Thank you. Judge Genesis Draper, thank you so much. Congratulations on the election.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you there.
Judge.
The Max Kenneth Harden, you got some guns and some tough skin, because it's tough. I'm pulling for you, and please, we're ready to be used as a resource. Yes, we wish you the best. And for Kate and Justin, thank you so much. And Harris County Reasonable Doubt and Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, thank you so much. We'll see you in about a week. Thank you.
And your JV.
Thank you.
Liberty or death.